tonight I'm going to be doing this elevated candy dish, live edge, end grain sort of turning. I'll explain kind of why and stuff as we go through. As Tana mentioned, I'm doing this demo at Swan. I've got 2 rotations, I think Saturday morning and Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So first thing in the morning. So if you want to see it again or whatever, you want to ask questions about what I did here, please drop by. We'll be happy to look at it. Yeah, so this is ash, freshly cut, what, 3 months, 2 months now? Something like that. I'm going to go through, we're going to rough the outside, so I'm going to face shield. Hopefully it goes all this way and not out that way. Then we'll mount it in a chuck, do some shaping and some brief little bit of a hollowing with the hook tool and stuff, and then we'll finish the outside. So this is one case, and we'll talk a bit about where I'm going to really do the inside before I do the outside final. So we'll do the inside to final, and then we'll turn the outside to final. Kind of opposite of a bowl, if you will, right? So that's something a little different as well. I've just taken a bit of time here before we started to kind of get it centered as best I can between my 2 points. I'm using my Elio drive, which is a 3 points burr drive thing with adjustable screws. So I've got it kind of lined up where I want it. So actually checking to see if my headstock's moving. It's not, so that's good. I tried to crank it down. I know these club lathes that get moved around, so always check your headstock, make sure it's not moving on you. So I'm now just tightening these screws down a little bit just to kind of get a bite on the headstock drive center. And that's how we're going to drive this thing tonight. So it's 3 pins, 2 are screwed, and the third one in the center is set it by a set screw here. So easy enough. All right, so now we got a drive center. First thing I want to do is double check that this is turned to 0 speed. And I've got power, but that didn't go on.
Is it plugged in?
Plug in.
I've got power on my LED.
Oh.
There we go.
There we go.
Good. All right, so it's working. That's the first step. All right, just this is going to vary a little bit as we get deeper. So I'm always checking my tailstock wheel as I kind of bury the center a bit into this fresh wood. So we're going to take off the first little bit. I've oriented this way with my top of my form at the headstock and my foot at the tailstock. I did this, I've got a knot here, I really don't want it at the rim, so I put that at the foot. The bark is kind of in rough condition. I think Tana kind of manhandled it a little bit too much.
You can take my husband.
All right, I'm just kidding. But if you are looking to do a natural edge on a bark, you know, I may take this down a little bit at the top end to get a nice bark edge. We got some nice sort of growth here, lichen and stuff, and that always adds character and stuff. So we're gonna leave that on. So this will turn out to be a nice little dish, hopefully. Ash is always fun to turn. It's a little harder than some of the other species I turn, but my wife loves it, and I do like it too. So it's gonna sound a little bit hollow, but we'll be good there. I'm going to be using a 5-inch bowl gouge to start with, and that's really to take off most of the bark and get a rough estimate on my size of tenon. I've got a couple of chucks here, kind of figure out what size I would have along to it and what size I'd have exactly. So we got some choices. Tool rest up a little bit. My nose breathing on the mic, sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to make sort of transverse cuts that go kind of sideways. I'm not going to go straight across. Cutting in this way just makes it easy. Cutting in this way is a little more difficult, so that's what I'll start to do. Double check the speed. I haven't done one of these for a little while. We've got a little bit of bounce there at 800, 930. And we go a little faster, that's going to stop a little bit. So 12, 1300, we'll start there. I want to get down sort of round at the bottom area here. And we'll just stop. Did I get you showered a little bit?
It's okay.
Okay. I want to leave about 1 inch worth of good bark up here for the natural edge. So I'm just kind of guessing that I want to go maybe up another half an inch or so. I'm taking these last cuts a little bit more careful and a little slow, and smaller cuts, just to kind of see how well the wood is cutting, what kind of surface we're getting. It's looking nice. I'm all the way through the bark, except not quite here, so maybe just another little bit of depth there. So I just learned recently that this form is actually called a compote or compote, which is, I think, a French term for elevated dish. They're usually made of glass. So I think next time I announce this, I'm doing this demo, I'll call it that. It's a bit more elegant than elevated candy dish. But that's essentially what they're made for back in the 1800s, is candy dishes and stuff like that. So interesting. All right, a little bit of a 5Q action with the balance just to clean up and bounce the humps and level things out a little bit. I can find my power button again. So what always happens when you start to turn on a different lathe than your own is that you're not quite used to where things are. I'm lining up to make an end cut here. So that I can clean up the, go down a little bit for the big gouge. Clean up the end, we can get a nice clean tenon cut there. Turn that on while that's on. This is at the 930 that where it was bouncing a lot, so we've lost a lot of that instability. It's not bouncing as much at that speed, but it bounced a little bit at 1,000. So. Just take more off and get more speed. I'm about 1350 now. Just to clean off that bottom. And I designed and created this new tool that I call my radius gauge. And this little hook hooks over the tailstock center. It's got little grooves in it, and I can measure roughly a tenon size. So this is in the radius, not the diameter. So 25 millimeters. If I hit it there, turn that on. That's about a 50 millimeter tenon. So your standard 2-inch jaws is that mark there. So that circle is not very dark, but let's do it again. And that's about a 50 millimeter or 2-inch tenon, but I'm using a much larger chuck. I've got a 4-inch jaw and about a 2.5, 3-inch jaw. So I've got a small ruler on here. This says 85 at close, so 90, which is 45. So 90 diameter, 45 radius, so I've got 50, so I'll go one less than that. That's going to be my tenon size for that chuck.
So will these measuring tools be for sale at SWAT?
Yes, these are on the website now. I just got into 3D printing last fall, about a year ago, not quite. And I saw something similar to this made, I think Ronald Kane over in Deutschland or somewhere made something similar.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, this is design. And then one of my customers says, why don't you put a ruler on the back? So I said, okay. So I did that. It's got a little magnet so you can hang it on your tool rest or your tailstock. All right. So we've got a general position of where that tenon is going to go.
The heads are wobbly.
Yep. It's not round yet. So it will be round. So. Maybe not actually round, but close.
Okay.
I'm just going to look at my jaws again. I've got about a 5 to 6 millimeter depth of tenon I can put on there. So we'll stop there. It's pretty close. I'll change tools to a little spindle gouge. I've got a handled one that I've been using for years, and I learned this technique from Al Sturt, and this is how he turns his dovetail tenon. Just a simple roll of the tool with a very sort of steep spindle gouge. It's got a very straight bevel on it, and that bevel is going to create our tenon. It's not easy cutting an end grain, so another way to do it is scrape this way. So you can do that with a parting tool that's cut at a bias, or ground at a bias, or a scraper that's cut at a bias, or a skew, any sort of tool. So this works just fine. So we'll leave it there. I think that's a pretty clean cut. Just cleaning up the bottom, that surface right there. So that's nice and smooth. That surface is nice and clean. And then we'll be good to go for a chuck hole in that guy. So however you get to your tenons, make sure they're nice and crisp and clean down on that junction. That's the only thing you really need to worry about. And that looks pretty good to me. So give me a moment here. We'll switch over. Oh, we got a knockout bar. Where did that go?
Right on top there.
Yeah. I was at the Fort Worth Club earlier this year, and they had, what was yours? There's a slight bend in yours too. When you get a slight bend in your knockout bar, it's hard to get it through the headstock. Yeah, it sticks. There's a slight bend in it. Their bend was down here, so it's a little sticky.
We like to make it hard on the demonstrator.
What's that?
We like to make it hard on the demonstrator.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Good.
Keep him on his
That's
toes.
when we get all our maintenance done too.
Yeah, there you go. So these are a big hollow form jaws. Not necessary, but I kind of like it with doing this kind of thing, because I can actually grip it around here. If I had taken that down, I could sink it all the way in there, but we're just going to hold it out here. I just did a video live stream on chuck maintenance. I don't know if anybody caught that on last Friday. But I tore down 4 or 5 different chucks, a couple of Axlister chucks, a Vic Mark, a Nova, and a one-way. And pulled out all the innards and stuff. I didn't clean everything online, live, but got most of it figured out. So.
Don't you have that video there online?
Yeah, it's still up there. I'm working to edit it down a little bit so it's a bit more concise. But. All right, we'll do a little bit of more shaping on the outside now. We got it at its final position for hollowing. And we'll take this top off. In fact, I might do that first. Yeah, better do that. That way I know how much you need to have. All right. Wait for the cut. All right, so we'll flatten out this top side. Now we're a bit more stable. Tailstock just up for, since it's there, might as well use it for the reason. So same sort of cut, and then get showered again, I don't know. See what this part looks like.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think we'll go down a little bit more just to get rid of. Oh, that's kind of nice there. I like that. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Leave it there. I think Shelley's right.
Of course.
Who would argue with her? I certainly wouldn't. All right. We'll do a little bit of shaping on the outside, but this is just kind of rough shaping. We're going to do most of the shaping on the outside after this thing is done. There. We're 1200 RPM. I'm going to try and do a bit of an OG. So we'll see, we'll kind of go in, curve, and go in again. So that's kind of the shape. So I'll get this bottom sort of curve in done first. Nice little curve there. We'll see how it's cutting. Whether this bark stays on through the whole turning, I'm not sure. It's fresh enough it should, but it may fall off after it dries. I did one years ago, and I turned it wet and set it aside. When I got home, I think it was a demo piece. And I kind of forgot about it in the shop. I think it was spring or summer. And it sat on the bench for a while. And I came out 2 weeks later or something. I don't know. I hadn't looked at it for a while. And the bark ring had fallen off completely in a solid piece.
Yeah.
So it had split, and it had ash, like the ash piece I had lots of bug holes. So that's where it kind of split. So ended up taking the piece, sanded it down on the lathe, finished it off. It didn't touch the rim at all where the bark fell off. Painted the whole thing red, and then painted the bark black, and then glued it back together.
Looks really cool.
And so, trying to figure, people ask, how did you paint inside the bug holes? Not mix the red and the black. So it's, it's a secret, trade secret. So, sometimes opportunities come where you least expect them. All right, so we're going to kind of nibble this bark away. So we get to the top. I'm not going to make a very deep candy dish. These are probably only about maybe 2 inches deep at the most. So I'll leave a bit of meat there for hollowing. That way it'll be a little more steady. So. Trying to get my base a little left-handed. It's a bit awkward for me. Sometimes I'm usually right-handed. But I need to go in fairly steep at the top here to get that. First turn of the OG. Let's take a look and see how that's holding. You can go a bit thinner all the way around. Because this log is not completely round, you're going to have pieces of bark or areas that are thicker and some are thinner. You get a really oval sort of shape one, you'll have a high rim on one side and a low rim on the other side, where it's skinnier. So that's really kind of a neat effect, and why sometimes I like this end grain on different shaped logs. Even branch sections, if you hollow there, you got 2 really upstanding sort of peaks and a valley that kind of meets together. It's really kind of unique shape. So we can talk about the pith now. This is the problem with end grain turning, is that you've got the pith, and I've got it showing up right here, and it's slightly off center from the center turning, or the center of the turning. So that's kind of good news, because when we get down to the stem, hopefully that pith is outside my stem area. But when you turn these wet, you can control the drying process a little bit by turning it all in one session and getting a good wall thickness throughout, both in the top end and the bottom foot. So I'm going to try and, I didn't bring masking tape, I forgot the masking tape, but we'll see if we can somehow reverse this. We may not be able to here, but I would typically hollow the bottom as well, so that I got very little material between the stem and that foot. We'll talk about that. It's going to be kind of a reverse image of this guy, but at the foot, a little bit smaller diameter. So I've got a start of going in, and we'll curve out for that OG. I'll get rid of some waves here. And maybe a bit more. And give it an angle of attack. I'm going to move this fluorescent in a little bit. And maybe get a smaller tool that is also a bit sharper. Move to a 1/2 inch gouge. That was a robust gouge, by the way. This is a permanent sun gouge, a 1/2 inch. The difference between it is really the material. M2 versus M42. But parabolic flute on the robust gouges and a V-shaped flute on the carbon. So for me, it makes a difference in how I grind. I've got to work on this. This bevel is convex of this wing, and it's harder to do on a straight-sided or a V-fluted gouge. Parabolic gouge, very simple to make a nice curved wing. So a little bit more work with the grinder to get this tool ground the same way, but it holds an edge a little bit longer. Pardon?
Is that the robust one?
That's the carbon side.
Oh, curve, okay.
I like the robust for the profile for the parabolic flute, and boy, you get a lot of gouge for the money. So kind of making our shape there. We're about 2 inches deep. I think that's going to be an effective step for our turning. We'll just take a look at the rim again. We can go maybe another cut, make it a little thinner. Oops. Where is it from? Right there. I'll go back to my other hand. That looks pretty good. We've got a nice rim. Hopefully that bark stays on. We've got a, I don't know, elegant shape. Not my usual, but I wanted to try one of these shapes with that sort of.
Well, could you put glue on the outside of the bark to make it stay on, or?
Yeah, it's a good idea, Shelley. It's a great tip. Is dribble some CA glue on here to stiffen up the bark. This one's kind of messed up a little bit here and there, but. And we got one piece of lichen left. Oh, we got two, so. But yeah, it's looking pretty good otherwise. So yeah, a little bit of CA glue. I would dribble it along this whole, go to the end shot view there. There's this sort of ring around the bark. It's called the cambium layer. That is where it's going to separate from the bark. And so glue along that ring as well. And then super glue or CA glue doesn't stain a whole lot, but as it's white wood, it might. So you may have to mix that into your finish process. Test first to see how it works for you. I'm going to have to remove this tailstock. Stop it there. Put this out of the way. All right, so we got to get rid of that guy. Actually, we'll leave that tailstock again. I'm going to do a little bit of drilling. Just shorten my hand a little bit. We'll take this down first, and then we'll drill a little hole to start our hole. I'm not going to sand tonight, but I won't even probably sand this yet. I'm still going to finish the outside a little bit. Before we finish the inside, or after we finish the inside. So a little bit more speed. Just a little bit for the drill bit to sink into.
Yeah.
I've got a one of these Morse taper drill bits, and it has been used quite a bit, so I've got several marks on here. This one's probably the closest. I don't want to go quite that deep, but it'll work.
What size is that, Todd?
I think I want to say it's 7/8, but I can't read it.
Oh,
I'll
you're
look
in?
up. I think it's around 7/8. But I want something that's about 1/2 inch or bigger. The hook tool I'm going to use is about 1/2 inch. I need a hole to kind of start with it. It's easier to start with a hole. Not necessary, 100%, but
Makes it easier.
yeah. Make that go in. This is wet wood, so drilling wet wood, you have to kind of be careful and stop and clear the chips. I did. My little brush. So I usually hold this in my hand and clean out with my brush. I'm not going to hold the fluted area, I'm going to hold the area that's not fluted, so in case it spins, I'm not hurting myself. So as soon as that gullet fills up and doesn't really move as much, I'll retract and clean the fluid out. Yeah, your plug needs a day of maintenance on this lathe. I've got to do some maintenance too. I've done my chucks. I've got to pull my tailstock quill out and re-grease it and get rid of the rust like you have here. I did that about a year ago. No, 2 years ago. It's time to do it again. Actually, I did it on my old lathe, my Powermatic.
Automatic.
Yeah. Just see how deep that is. This should fit. I don't think it'll fit. It will just barely fit. So we are about there. Maybe I can do the rest, I think, with the hook tool. So just measuring a little bit. We're about 2 inches deep. Let me just, let's say about. We are 1.5 inches. Let's go just a little bit deeper. 1.5 inches to go too quick.
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for something that's pleasing, but also enough hollowing that I can teach. So I need a bit more material there. Because it'll go too quick, though, 1.5 inches.
Gotcha.
Half inch, looking at the scale here from what I saw, it could be about 1/2 inch. All right, so don't touch that end. It's typically quite hot. So I've done that before.
There's still more junk on it, underneath.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clean it off,
There you go.
Put it back in its box. So these are quite handy when you want to take a Jacobs chuck with you to a demo or to an open shop or something like that. But sometimes they do spin. I sometimes put what they call vice grips, locking pliers or something like that, and whoops, have those locking pliers rested on the tool rest. Don't stop it when I spin. All right, so we've got some room in there. Now we can get rid of this back. And what's our time? Just to get a time check.
Oh, what, 7:15, so, I don't know. I don't remember what time you started, but take another half an hour, 45 minutes.
Half an hour?
An hour, whatever.
Sounds good. All right.
Hurry up,
Thank
man.
you. Hurry up, man.
I'm just kidding.
All right, so we're going to use, there's several ways to kind of dish this out. I'm going to use the hook tool just to talk about that a little bit. That's what I'm going to talk about demo. So we've got a couple of hook tools we're going to overhead. This is kind of what they look like. These are the Michael Hoslow hook tools, and they are made by him up in Canada. And then he sells them at trade shows when he goes, but otherwise you get them from me. That's the only other place. They've got a bevel on it like that. So the bevel is, I don't know what it is, 45 degrees or something like that. The hook is slightly off center from the shank, so it does have some natural torque over tendencies, but we'll eliminate that by how we present the tool. This one I've used quite a bit, so you can see the difference in where that is. I did take this to the grinder, but I've honed it for the first 3 years. So I hone these guys, you don't really want to take them to the grinder until you're completely have to. Otherwise you're just wasting metal. So we'll start with the fresh one. I'm going to put in this toolbar, hook toolbar, and there is a preferred way that I mount it. I've got 2 set screws here, and I put those on the non-cutting side. So there is a little flat on these tools right there, and that's what I'm going to grab onto. So there's a way, and there's a flat on the other side as well. These things are cast through the lost wax casting method. You can see the casting line right down the middle. They're hardened, heat treated, and then shaped by the grind by Michael in the shop. It's D2. It's a tool steel. It's not necessarily classified as a high-speed steel, but the temperature difference between the two is not going to cause us any issues. I need my adapter. Oh, we got 1 5/8 adapter here. So this tool is kind of requires a larger or a longer handle. There's this one, we'll use that one. My handle is modular design, so I can have a 4-inch handle, an 8-inch handle, a 12-inch handle. You keep adding until you go. And so I've got some room here. So we'll add on one more section.
Just like Lego.
20-inch handle. I like the extra length because it gives me a little bit of stability as I get down there. For this depth, probably not necessary, but just showing you what you can do. What I want to do is set this tool rest up so the bar is resting on it, not the tool, but the bar, and that when I do that, the hook enters that hole freely when the handle is level. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So I've kind of lucked out on the tool and rest height.
Todd?
Yes.
Are you setting the tool so that it's centered on there, or does that not matter?
It's centered in the hole in terms of the hook area. This top bar is a little bit high, so maybe a little bit high, but I think I can work with it. So I would want to come down maybe a fraction of an inch,
Yeah, it looks a little high.
not a whole lot. So that's going in nice and even. I think I'm pretty level here. So you also notice I've got the hook facing down. This hook part is facing down. That I'm going to call its natural position, or where you want to start. So don't have the hook over at 9 o'clock. Have it down at 6 o'clock. So we're going to twist this thing from 6 to about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And that's as far as we're going to go with it. Think of this as just the opposite of a bowl gouge. So if I take a bowl gouge, and because we're on end grain, we want to cut from the small diameter out to the rib. So we're going to cut from the inside to the outside. It's opposite from face grain bowl turning, where you cut from the rib down to the center. So if it was a regular face grain bowl, I'd be starting here, the handle over on this side, going down to the middle, ending up here. And you see where my bevel contact is here at the bottom? My handle is at this end. Right? So that's a bowl gouge if you're doing a bowl gouge. Let's watch how we're going to start this thing with the hook tool. We've got a bevel, right? That's going to go in, and we're going to cut there. We're going to have our handle over here. By the time we end up at the sidewall, we're going to have a handle over here. So, start position or end position for the hook tool, start position for the bowl gouge. End position for the bowl gouge, start position for the hook tool. Right? So it's almost opposite. You've got a bevel here that's going in the opposite direction as a bowl gouge. So everything's kind of backwards. Once you kind of get that concept, it's relatively easy to kind of operate this tool.
Just be backwards.
Yeah, so I'm going to change my headgear out. I'm going my safety glasses. I'm outside the firing line, so I'm fine here with safety glasses. I'm going 700 RPM. I don't need to go necessarily too fast, especially with wet wood. It just builds up more heat. So we'll start there. We're at 6 o'clock, and I'll stay at 6 o'clock. I can go back and forth and just spray. If I twist it, I start getting cuts. So that's as easy as it is. And those nice little cuts come out. Don't get clogged up in a ring tool or a circle. So if we feel that super smooth, sure, come take a look. Feel the metal.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
good.
So you could probably, it's probably, you can start sanding at 400, 600.
So Todd, does that ring tool work, or hook tool work well on dry wood also?
Yeah, it works well on dry wood, just as always with wet wood, it's a little bit more fun. You get better chips and curls and stuff, but yeah, absolutely.
Tell them why you like it too. You don't like to sand.
I don't like to sand, yeah. Although we will do a bit of scraping at the bottom here because I'm going to show that. Here we can see the pith right there, so it's slightly off center, but we're going to cut through that. So we'll try and, I've got just sort of a straight wall here because all I did was pull the tool straight. I didn't move the handle much, I just pulled it straight out. We'll try and make a shape now where I turn the handle and we'll make a curved surface. So in at 6, twist to 630. So now we've got a curved bowl surface in there because we moved the handle. So now we're starting to get sort of that OG shape that we're trying to get to. So
Cuts really good.
yeah, it is amazing how well it cuts. This is a freshly sharpened one, so we'll show that in a second. I've got a bit of a catch there because I didn't really see what I was doing. So if I've got if I turn this over really large, I'll get that huge catch sort of thing like that. And that's because I've turned this over to too far of an angle where I've got this torque situation. Because this is off center from the tool axis, it's going to twist it over. And that's what happens if you turn over too much. So I got a nice little undercut rim right in there, which I don't want. So if I go in and try and start cut again and hit that, I'll have the same problem. It's like hitting a big wall of wood with a fresh edge. You're going to get a catch or too much wood cut at once. So I'm just going to go in and scrape that edge away, smooth it over the straight, and then go back and haul up. So now I'm on the bottom, I have to bring my handle over towards me to get this bevel, and I'll show that here with this ruler. So I'm cutting on this part of the gouge, or this sort of not on the bottom, but kind of in that sweet spot right in the middle. And I'm looking at the camera so I can see, I'll point with my ruler, right in sort of that corner. So if I hold the ruler, let me just pull this back a little bit, get some room. If we're right on the inside, my bevel is there. So if I want my bevel flat on the bottom, I have to move my handle over. So that's where my bevel is. So if I go in straight like I was and just twist, I'm cutting that angle if I pull straight. So if I want a curved edge or a flat bottom, I've got to move my handle this way. And then if I want a horizontal wall, I've got to move my handle way the heck over here. Right? So that's just follow the bevel like you do any other tool. Make sure I can get my tool out with my bar still in the rest. So I'm on the bottom down in there. And I didn't bring my Cindy light because it's a bit dark in there. Everybody see okay in there? Okay.
Yep.
And this is where I prefer to have the headstock down and stand at the end of the lathe and get a bit more comfortable with what I'm doing. I want to kind of end up there, so. wood there. So we've got a fairly nice uniform curve. I've got a little rim right here on left. We'll clean that. I've got still a bit of a drill hole there, so we've got to get that.
Get it, Tom.
Get it. All right, so there's resting on the bottom. I kind of have to come over a little bit to kind of get that edge engaged. Slowing down quite a bit because I'm hitting that natural edge out there. And that feels pretty good to me. I don't know that I want to do much more. I've got that little, it's a little divot, I got to do one more cut.
Don't go too deep.
Yeah, I'll just make it a deeper vessel. But wall thickness, we're pretty thick on the sides, we're pretty good up here, but we're going to have to cut more out and then swing it up and in. So there may have to be some blending with this shape in terms of getting the full shape correct, and blending might happen with a scraper. And I think I'm just going to scrape it there. I'm just kind of wasting wood here with a scrape. And it's, it's kind of a lot rougher and not quite smooth, so now I'll go through and make my sort of final pass with that. I'm kind of starting to drill a hole with the tool right there. I want to get my foot in my finishing position. Fell out of that cut just like a bowl gouge sometimes does. Let's go ahead and sharpen the tool. I'll show that a little bit. All right, so I've got a bevel on the outside that's ground
Can't see the tooling.
by the factory.
There you
There we
go.
go. So a factory being Michael Hosluck in his shop in Saskatchewan. So I'm not going to touch that edge. If I need to, I may touch it up. I've got a 1/4 inch half round and flat hone, 600 grit. I'm going to hone the inside because that's the easiest thing to do to keep this bevel shape. So I just take the hone, I have to kind of look at it a little bit, and hone that inside with the half round part. And that's just freshening that edge. And eventually, you do that enough, and you do wear a little divot or a little hole right in your hook tool at that point. And so that's why I took it to the grinder to get rid of this rest out here. I don't really use this part of the tool up here, my finger's pointing. I use this part down here, so.
No wonder mine never cuts. I think I've been doing it all wrong.
Was there?
By the way you approach it in there and the way you sharpen it.
Okay.
So that's
Well, good.
good to
Hopefully,
know. Yeah,
yeah, hopefully that works. And take it back to your shop, and
yeah,
if you got questions, give me a call.
okay.
Yeah. All right, so
You too? Okay.
let's start that. Yeah, you can even come by. We can do a little hands-on sort of thing. I can stop there because well, that's pretty even. I surprised myself. Look at that. I was thinking I'm going to go through. Get some more leverage into the back of this handle. It's really hard to do these OT shapes with this. There's so much swing in the handle. I'm actually on the right side of center here, trying to dig a hole at the,
Why are you trying to dig a hole?
well, because I've got a bit of a hump in the middle, Shelley.
Okay, I can't tell from here.
There we go. Foot in place. Well, I went too deep there. I can see sunlight through that hole.
That's enough, that's enough.
And that's
Break it, break it.
Yeah, it's nice
The
and thick.
famous one more cut.
Yeah, yeah.
No more.
One more. Oh, I actually got a hole through it. Oh, it's a wormhole. It's a bug hole. I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'll feed you later.
Candies, the big candies we use won't fall through that hole.
Yeah.
All right, I need a little bit thinner at the rim, maybe.
No, no, no.
No?
No, it's gonna blow. Don't do it.
No, I need a little thickness. I got a
Oh,
little hump right
Jesus.
there. The famous one more cut. You're right there. So, bevel in contact. Move the handle till you get a cut. Just like a bowl gouge. Nice, that's better. All right, I'm happy with that. Now, I said at the beginning I was going to do some outside shaping to finish it.
You don't need
I don't have a lot of room to do that, so I think we hit this one, nailed it on the first try, so I'm quite happy with that. So that's really the end of the hook tool use. I don't even think I'll scrape it because that's just going to ruin the finish. But yeah, I don't even need to do that. But if you did want to, a negative rate scraper like that to finish up the inside if you got a little middle mountain, or I was showing this to one gentleman earlier tonight, my half round bar and teardrop cutter is a great sort of shear scraper in the bottom and then left over the side there, can scrape. So whatever your choice is, if you do that, yeah, please go ahead. Sharon, do you want to come take a look at this again? Is that going to pass your muster?
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, you even got that little nib out
I
of it.
did, yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, blue bottom. Yeah, it is. It is. And that's why I have the scraper as a backup, because I find that sometimes I'm left with a little nib in the bottom, or a little mountain, or a little divot with the drill bit, and I can't get to it with the hook tool, so I'll use that to scrape it out. But I try not to scrape too much, because this surface is, I mean, that's finish ready almost, 400 grit there, so. All right, let's,
Honey, it's,
yeah.
just so you know, it's 8 o'clock, just so you know.
Yeah, this back part doesn't take too long. I usually don't spend a lot of time on this foot area, so we'll blast through it as quickly as I can.
What are you gonna use?
Bowl gouge again. So with this one, where's the one I just used? Can I put it back in your box? All right, hang on. Inventory time.
Did you put it in one of the handles? Turn it around?
Oh yeah, it's in the handle already. Thank you. I knew it was right for something.
Look at the heck we use, kind of fun.
All right, making sure that clears. We've got our bowl shape up to here, so now it's just a matter of skinning this down to a sort of a finial, if you will, or pedestal, and then a foot. I'm not gonna make this too tall. I'll probably waste a lot of wood here, but I may use that wood if we can jam chuck it to turn the foot. Let's see if that's possible tonight. I didn't bring my tape. But we'll see. So just some removing cuts, wasting wood. cutting from small diameter, or large diameter to small diameter on the outside, opposite on the inside, right? So just like bowl, turning it away, it's opposite. Okay, and there it is. This tool rest in here a bit closer. And finish up this shape a little bit. Let's see. Alright, I'm gonna need a bit more of a ball on the bottom. With natural edge, I try to stop the lathe when I do this sort of finger gauging, because it's not an even circle. So I think I'm good there. A bit of thickness on that hump there, so we'll take that down. We are doing a bit of final shaping on the outside. You can hear it bouncing a little bit. It's thin. I just want to take that hump out a little bit.
No, you're gonna real thin switcher and set right there. Hey, no, get away from there.
We can see your tool.
Yeah, we can see your tool.
Oh, there's plenty of room.
Oh, there's plenty of room.
Good. A little spindle gouge just to kind of clean up the little detail in there. Well, pretty robust spindle gouge, and since it's so thin, the tool that is, I'm going to get my tool rest in there.
Sharon, this kind of reminds me a lot of the shape of the red one with the black.
Yeah, well, that one's more, not quite an OG, but it's, I can see why it might be.
Kind of reminds me of it.
Just a little bead there at the top of the foot, leading into a little cove. A bit more tool room. Bigger tool just to have more mass of hanging over the tool rest. Okay, I've got to kind of decide before I finish that curve how we're going to end this thing. So, parting tool, just to kind of get a feel for where we're going to end. And that's that height. I think I want to end it maybe either shorter than that or taller than that. So I'm going to end it a little bit taller, so we'll make it down here. Just to kind of define where our end is going to be. I'll take that down. Sorry about Trying to get the most tool support closest to the wood. Oops, wrong tool. Okay.
8:13.
This shape is essentially an arc of my tool, and I'm pivoting with my fingers on the tool. Cindy would say, don't use your fingers on the tool. Right. Trying to avoid, which I think I've done, the pith in the stem. So the pith exits here and comes in there. So we have no pith in this area. So that should be stable. It may warp. I don't know. We might have a leading goblet or a cambridge, but it should be okay. Yeah.
What wood, if that doesn't warp now and go a little sideways on you, would it dry it?
It may, as I just mentioned, we got the pith kind of outside the shaft, so it may just bend towards or away from the pith a little bit, but it shouldn't move too much. We've got a pretty good consistent thickness through all the wing, all the vessel, all the way down even to this bottom. We're maybe half an inch between the stem there. And then this will, the intent is to, I don't know, we'll have time tonight to turn this around and hollow the foot out a little bit so we have an even thickness to the foot. And that should help prevent this thing from falling apart. I'll leave it there. If I had a little bit of rough sandpaper, I'd sand out some of those tool marks, but let's go ahead and finish this guy off at the foot. Clear the bark.
Can you use your home sand out?
No.
No. Alright.
Good question. So, I will try to angle my parting tool to hollow that foot a little bit. And give me access to that. I'm just going to take get that away. Stop the leak. Don't ruin it now, Todd. So instead of taking this off the hollow of the foot, we're going to undercut with the parting tool. kind of start to think about looking at that, is it wobbly? Is it going to come loose? If that's the case, then we'll hold our hand over it. And the other option is, I got this thing on Amazon a couple years ago. Little folding Zuki. So very handy. It's called a Kerye. Amazon. You probably don't have it on Amazon. But handy to keep the blade enclosed in your bench or wherever it is.
It
So,
comes in a really nice case too.
yeah, it does. It's a nice case. I actually bought 2 of them. But we'll try and punch this out. The thing I'm going to do first, and I've had experience with this, is to get this part of the tool rest as far away from that guy as possible, because as it comes off, it tends to kind of flop around. So. Then hang on. You okay, Sheldon?
Yeah, I
All
know.
right. All right. Cool.
Yeah, you can see the light through.
There you go.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You see
Hey,
the light?
Todd,
Yeah.
the bottom, is that, the thickness of the bottom, is it all subjective?
Is it this thickness here?
Yeah,
Here?
the thickness of the foot of the bottom.
Yeah, so I want to try and get this thickness,
So I couldn't
all the
make
way
it too
consistent.
thick.
I want to get it consistent all the way through here. Being this is wet wood, it's going to dry if the wall thicknesses are even. If I've got thick wood and thin wood, then that's when I got problems, because this will dry out quicker and then this will start to crack because it's not drying as quick. So I would take this and I would try and jam chuck it on there with some tape and then haul that out a little bit. Maybe a steady rest or whatever. But a little bit of sandpaper and well, that's going to go across there. That's it. So if you got any questions, let me know. I didn't bring it.
I
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks very much, everybody, for
know. Yeah.
just wading through that. Hopefully it picks something up and, you know, we can hopefully make another one as good as that at SWAT, or 2 of them. I got 2 demos, so we'll see how that goes. All right.
Yeah, just don't go too far.
Would you use that hook tool on bowls? Like, do you prefer it over your bowl gouge?
So on face grain, I don't use the hook tool. I only use it on end grain. I have had customers use it on face grain with
Not
some
good.
success, but not much. The reason is if we have wood, do the smaller. If we have wood mounted this way, we've got side grain coming at us, and then end grain coming at us, and then side grain and end grain. So the end grain's going to peel, or the side grain's going to peel off nicely. You know how just using a chisel, you can just get a big wedge of wood coming off a log or something like that. But end grain, it's very hard. So you've got that inconsistency of cut that's coming around, and it makes it very bumpy. And so it's not really recommended for side or face grain turning. For this kind of thing, it's good. And you know, don't use a full log. If you got a big log and you got a nice piece of you know, chunk of a log that size, but bigger, then yeah, it's gonna, you won't have to worry about the pith, is what I'm saying. If you take a nice big log and take a section out of the side of the half of the
What
log.
else would you use if you're doing a bowl? You're making a bowl. What other tools would you use?
A face grain bowl, like a regular bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, bowl gouges and scrapers. Yeah.
Well, if it's end grain, then use the hook tool.
Yeah, you can use a hook tool. You can use scrapers on end grain. You can
Material
use.
colors?
Yeah, I take this guy, and I do this with bowl, face grain, or end grain. That's the wrong tool, Todd. I didn't bring that one out. No, I don't have it. There we go. So with the half-round bar on the tool rest, I can shear scrape with the big round side. I can shear scrape with the big edge on the outside of the form. If I take this off, flip the bar over, flip the cutter over. Now I've got a, flip the cutter over.
Negative range.
There we go. Now we've got a pointy side, and that's what I would hollow with. So this is, the flat bar gives you a bit of torque resistance. So I hollow a lot of small pieces with this guy. And it's just, so whatever scraper you have would work. A single bevel scraper is going to hollow pretty nicely, whether it's, you know, a teardrop, a round nose, a flat scraper. Yeah, John?
When you've got the flat of that tool on the tool rest, do you have to angle it down a little bit?
Yeah, it's just like any other single bevel scraper, you want the handle higher than the cutting edge. So, yeah, and because the cutter is, at that point, is kind of underneath, underneath the bar, the tool rest has to come up quite a bit, so to get on center, and you have the handle sort of higher than the cutting tip.